John asked me to speak on social justice, and it's a little bit of a tricky topic because we as Christians should care a lot about justice and social justice. Those should be important things to us, and yet you'll know if you're familiar with this conversation at all in the body of Christ, it's actually like a very a divisive topic right now. The topic of justice, social justice. One of the reasons is a lot of us have different definitions of what we mean by social justice. Like it's like one of those things that doesn't get defined a lot, and so it's just kind of out there and ubiquitous, and it's not clear exactly everything that's meant by it. In this last year, more than anything, we've had all these conversations that come up over the pandemic, over COVID, about how do we treat each other? Like, should you wear a mask to love your neighbor? And, like, if you're not wearing a mask, are you not loving your neighbor? And what does it mean? So it's come up like that. If you meet together as a church, are we doing something unloving here tonight because we're meeting during the pandemic and coming together? And so there's a lot of people who have really, I don't know if you guys have been on the internet recently, but there's a lot of people with like really strong opinions about what you should do and what is the right thing, the good thing, and all that kind of stuff. We also, over this last summer, we had all of these this big protest and a big riot actually here in La Mesa, that several buildings got burned down over, really got kicked off by George Floyd being killed in Minnesota. But then we had a guy who was, who was harassed by some police officers in La Mesa, and that's kind of why La Mesa popped off. And there have been a bunch of questions about that, like how do we understand that? How do we understand people being so upset that they're rioting? And then we just had over this last, this last couple months, was it February 6th? January 6th, the Capitol riots, right? Like the storming of the Capitol, and there's like a bunch of questions about that. Like, well, what is the election trying to be stolen? There's all these questions about justice. What is justice? All these things swirling around, and it's a really difficult thing. My goal tonight is really to look at what does the Bible teach us about justice. So how do we have a biblical understanding about the topic of justice? When people start to work at, if you get a job at a bank, one of the ways they teach bank tellers how to spot fraudulent money or how to spot counterfeit money is you would think they show them like counterfeit money and how you can tell the difference. That's not what they do. They just give you a bunch of real money and they say, touch it, count it, go over it over and over again, stack it up, smell it. They want you to get super used to the feel of real money so that when counterfeit money comes along, you're counting $100 bills and you feel, that one didn't feel right. That one felt different. And that's how they teach people how to counterfeit spot money, or how to spot counterfeit money. A lot of times as we go into these kind of complicated topics about culture and ideas that are out there, worldview ideas, probably one of the best ways for us to do it is understand what does the Bible teach about these things. And so really getting our idea around our heart, our minds around what the Bible teaches. Okay, I'm gonna talk about justice from a biblical standpoint and several different areas of justice and what that means. But getting into it, I want to talk about my niece. My niece is 16 years old, and over the last year, she's gotten super into racial reconciliation. So when all of these protests over the summer were going off, she wanted to make a Black Lives Matter sign and put in her window. She did make a Black Lives Matter sign and put in her window. If you drive around San Diego, you'll see lots of yard signs about justice, equality, we got to do better, we need justice for all, Black Lives Matter, like all these different kinds of things. You see flags, you see yard signs. You see the yard signs that say in this house we believe in science, we believe love is love, we believe all those kinds of things. You guys seen those? Am I the only one seen those? Okay, you guys seen those too? Good. I want to make one of those. I think I could be a millionaire. I want to make one of those yard signs that just says political statement, and then that's it. You put it in your yard, and you get to be part of the people that are putting yard signs in too. But my niece, let me back up and let you guys know something about myself. I love all of God's people. As I look out across the spectrum of all the diversity that God made, I'm one of those people who really likes diversity. I like diverse things. I like going to different places. I like eating different kinds of food. When I go to Mexico, I do my best to speak Spanish. And I'm terrible at it, but I love it. I enjoy it. There's a lot of people who are they're fluent Spanish speakers. They're I don't want to make a mistake, so I don't even try. I'm out there, I'm parlez-vous français? And they're like, no, that's the wrong place. And I'm just like, but I go for it because I like different cultures. I like to travel. I like to go all over the place. I like in my friends to have all these different relationships. In my home group, for a while there, Brianna, she goes to my home group. John sometimes, very rarely attends. Monique even more rarely attends in our home group. But for a while there, we went from like a college-age home group to an adult home group, and we had people getting married. And there was a time there where 10 out of 12 marriages in our home group were all interracial relationships. So it was black people marrying white people. It was Asian people marrying black people. It was Monique. You were at our home group at the time, but you look like you have like a little melanin in your skin. What do you got? Okay, we got Mexican people marrying a white Corey. And when I see that stuff, I'm like happy for my friends getting married, but I'm extra happy for. Let me clip this on. I'm extra happy for like. Dude, I feel like we're helping fix the problems in America, the racial problems we got. So I'm about that kind of stuff. In 2015, there was some. We helped raise money. Our home group really started a campaign to help raise money to open up a crisis pregnancy center in Southeast San Diego. Now, if you don't know, just real quick about abortion is disproportionately affects black and brown people by a lot, okay? So if black babies are aborted almost 5 times the rate of white babies, and Hispanic babies are aborted almost 3 times the rate of white babies, okay? So black and brown people are the people who need the most resources, they need the most help, and in San Diego County, the most diverse neighborhood in San Diego County is Southeast San Diego. But there is no crisis pregnancy center there. And we met some people who wanted to help start one, and so we helped raise money. We ended up raising almost $80,000 to help build this crisis pregnancy center. It's there now. It's resourcing women. It's helping. It's really cool. All right. I'm just saying all that. I just want to let you know that when my niece, who I love very much, was getting really excited about racial reconciliation, I had a bad feeling about it. Okay? So I just told you, I'm down. I want very, very, very much to fix the problems that we have in the United States of America about race. But my niece, as she got involved in this, it made my heart hurt because I felt like she is getting deceived in some ways. Because in this issue of justice, and specifically in the issue of race, but overall in all these issues of justice, there's a lot that goes into, well, what is actually justice? What actually is just? So there's a lot of people, probably some in this room, who would say that a woman's right to choose what to do with her own body, her own bodily autonomy, her ability to choose whether to have an abortion or not is a justice issue, and anybody who would want to take that away from her is doing something unjust, right? And they say if you care about justice, you got to be pro-choice. You got to be pro-abortion. That's a justice issue. If you don't care about, if you're not pro-choice, then you don't care about justice. And I'd say, no, I care very much about justice. I care very much about people. I do want people to have freedom of choice. I do want people to be able to choose what to do with their own body. But this issue, I think you're confused on. This issue is about what that person does with somebody else's body. And so the justice issue here is you're not allowed to kill a baby. Even if that baby lives inside your womb, you shouldn't be allowed to kill it. And that's what justice is. And so we could have a big fight about it, and we would be yelling, and we would be accusing each other of being unjust. And maybe even unloving and uncaring. And that's what happens a lot of times as we discuss these issues. And so I want to try to get what is a biblical understanding of this idea of justice. And I want to say it all in the context that people will try to use what you care about justice for other things. All right, here's what I'm going to do. Because this is something I care a lot about, I've thought a lot about, I've studied for many years a lot about this stuff. You have a fill in the blank there. But if you want to write any questions, I'm going to blow through this thing, and I want to leave some time for Q&A of issues that you've come up with or that you've thought about or that you struggle with or you know people struggle with, that I want to have time available for you to bring those up if you have questions like that. So as I go through this, I want to add that you will have like a little Q&A time at the end. Here's the 2 problems with a lot of what is considered justice in America. One is either, falls into two categories. So my opposition falls into two categories. Either it's not justice, okay? A lot of times the issue that we call a justice issue, we've got wrong in our culture. So for instance, the abortion issue. I think the abortion issue we've gotten wrong, and we have a wrong idea what justice means in that culture. But I'd say another one is gay marriage. So I'd say gay marriage is legal in America, and people for a long time said, look, this is LGBTQ plus issues, or these are trans issues. And so they'd say, like, for instance, letting trans women, which is a biological male who identifies as a woman, compete in women's sports in high school. There's people who would say that's a justice issue, we have to let them do that. And I would say, no, we wouldn't have a biological man competing against women in sex-select sports, okay? So that would be an issue that I would say. So I'd say that's not a justice issue, or we got the justice issue wrong. The second thing is even more sneaky, though. So the first one, I think we as Christians can decently get our minds around, but the second one is the solution is unjust. So we're accurately seeing an unjust solution, and this will be what would happen with my niece. She's accurately seeing something that is deplorable. She would see, I see racism in the world, and racism exists, and she'd say, I'm against it, I hate it. And I want to work towards eradicating racism. And I would say, yes, amen, sister. And so she's going to write she's going to make a Black Lives Matter poster and put it in her window. Okay, well, I don't think Black Lives Matter the organization has the solution to the problem of racism. I think their solution is cause a lot of problems. I would just describe it like this. I would describe it a couple of ways. First is if you were at my house and you're jumping on the trampoline with me and my kids and you twisted your knee and you're like, oh, and you blew your ACL. And I said, come inside, I got some medicine. I go in the medicine cabinet and I find some insulin, okay? I don't know why I have insulin, but I find some insulin. I say, okay, look, your knee, this is medicine. Look, it says medicine on it. Let's give it to you, right? Well, one of the problems is insulin doesn't cure blown ACLs. Insulin helps manufacture what your body makes in its pancreas to control your blood sugar levels. But if you have too much insulin, your blood sugar drops and you can die. So now you're gonna be at risk of dying and have a blown ACL, and neither one of them help, right? I got the wrong medicine for the problem, right? So oftentimes we get the wrong medicine for the problem. I would use it like this. What's your name? William. What up, William? Now, let's say William came up to me after. He's like, hey, Mike, I've been going through some hard times. I haven't eaten for a few days. We don't have a lot of food at my house. We're about to get evicted, and I just want to know if there's anything you do to help, okay? If I gave William $500 to help them pay for rent, get a little bit of food, take care of them, that would be generosity and kindness, right? But what's your name? Hannah. But if I stole $500 from Hannah and I gave it to William, is that justice? No, right? Now I've committed a crime, right? I stole her money, but wait, I'm doing something nice for William. This is like what Robin Hood is about, right? Right? This is like the whole idea behind Robin Hood. I'm not giving you my own money. I'm stealing Hannah's money to give to you, okay? That doesn't make it right. And so there are justice issues. A lot of what we're saying, so we see like welfare programs in the United States and things like that people want to say, dude, don't you care about the marginalized? Don't you care about people that are hurting? And what's your solution to that? Well, yes. And doesn't the Bible tell you have to care about these people that are hurting and suffering? Yeah, it does. Don't you have to care about where there's injustice? Yes, you do. But what you do about it doesn't mean I get to take your money and give it to them. It means I have to take my own money and give it to them, okay? That's a different thing. That's taking personal responsibility. Okay, let's get into this. Doing justice. The Bible says in Micah 6:8, one of my favorite verses, we have a young adult discipleship program here that we call Micah 6:8, and it's after this verse. It's, what does God require of you, O man? So here's the main question. What does God require of you? What is it that God expects of you? He gives you three things. First, do justice. Say, do justice. Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. Okay? So he says, walk humbly with God, love mercy, love God's mercy, love God's grace, but do justice. Okay, so justice is something the Bible expects us to do. Okay, so the question becomes, what is justice? This is the first fill in the blank on there. When we say justice, we mean three things. The first thing we mean is equity. That first fill in the blank is equity, equal treatment. Now, this is really important because we have a lot of things today that are called equity that are not actually equity, okay? So equity means we don't have a separate set of laws for one group of people than we do for another, okay? So this doesn't mean we all get the same outcomes. Everybody in this room who says, I want to be a doctor, gets to be a doctor. Everybody in this room who wants to say, I want to be a lawyer, gets to be a lawyer. No. That we don't mean equity in that sense. We mean if there's not a separate, we don't make you get a 4.0 GPA and you get a 3.2 GPA because you guys are different races. A long time in our country, we had laws like that, right? That was what was unjust about our Jim Crow laws. We wanted to have separate, unequal treatment by the law for people. That was ungodly. But you don't fix it by making the system unjust in the other way. That's not how stuff gets fixed. Look what the Bible says. Leviticus 24:22. There shall be one standard for you. It shall be for the stranger as well as the native, for I am the Lord your God. We don't get to have different standards for different people. There's one standard. Look what it says in the next verse. Proverbs 20:10. Unequal weights and unequal measures are both alike an abomination to the Lord. What is an unequal weight and measure? Well, remember, when you would buy and sell things, you'd use a scale, right? So if you brought all your wheat to the market, and they would put it on the scale, and they'd weigh it, and they'd pay you by the weight. Well, sometimes they would have bogus weights. They would weigh lighter than what they said, and so it looked like you have less, so they get to get more. God says that's an abomination to him. To bring an unjust weight or an unjust measure, it's an abomination. Okay, the second thing is this. Justice also means paying special attention to the vulnerable. The fill in the blank is vulnerable. The vulnerable are objects of special concern to God. This is not equal treatment. The Bible tends to identify four groups that fit the category of the vulnerable, the quartet of the vulnerable, if you will. The widows, orphans, strangers, and the poor. You'll see these four groups of people are oftentimes grouped in the scriptures. Zechariah 7, 10, 11. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Administer true justice. Show mercy and compassion to one another. Do not oppress the widow or the fatherless, the immigrant or the poor, right? Widow, fatherless, immigrant, poor. Widows, orphans, strangers, and the poor. So these people, why does God care especially about these people? One of the things I say is that God loves everybody, but God especially loves these people. He pays special attention to these people because they're vulnerable. Because these people need extra help in certain situations. Okay, they need extra protection because they can't protect themselves. All right. What time do we get out of here, John?
We're done at 8:30.
8:30. You guys usually have ministry time? Worship at the end? Okay. The third and final thing that justice means is generosity. Generosity speaks to the personal nature of what God means by justice. It's going to cost you something from your personal property. He expects you to share what you have, what he's given you with other people. God identifies himself with the vulnerable. Look what it says in Psalm 68:5. A father of the fatherless and a judge for the widows is God in his holy habitation. God in his holy place is a father to the fatherless. Okay? He looks out for, he takes special care of. How does he do that? It says in Psalm 82:3-4, defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed, rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them from the hand of the wicked. Who's he giving this command to? Speak up. Not everybody. Yeah, believers. He is giving this command to believers. What does he tell them to do? Look out for these people that are vulnerable. So he's telling us, how's God going to be a father to the fatherless? By us taking them in and caring for them. Isaiah 1:17, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, and plead the case of the widows. I talk about this when I teach on abortion. I just taught last week at the high school. But I got 5 kids. My oldest is Wilson. Let's say he's walking home from school. What's your name? Yeah, again. Lucas? Lucas. And let's say Wilson's walking home from school, and Lucas jumps out from behind a car and says, hey, kid, give me all your money. And Wilson's like, no. And he's like, yeah. And Wilson's like, uh-uh. and he's like, and he chases him down, he beats Wilson up and takes his money, right? Wilson comes home, bloody, bruised, moneyless, and he walks in the house, and I'm there, and he says, Dad, this big kid, Lucas, he's extra tall, there's something wrong with his pituitary gland, and he stole my money. All right, well, son, let's get in the car, let's go find Lucas, right? So we're gonna go find Lucas, go find whatever, this back alley where Lucas hangs out at, and I'm gonna go talk to Lucas, and I'm gonna say, Lucas, you stole money from my son, and I'm gonna handle business with Lucas, right? Okay? Yeah, and I'm going to get not only my son's money back, but I'm going to get whatever money Lucas had and whatever he did to my son as far as the amount of blood my son lost, Lucas is going to lose 10 times that much blood, right? And let's say somehow Lucas, in his sneaky ninja ways, defeats me somehow. I will then spend the rest of my life and all of my resources hiring people to attack Lucas, okay? I'm going to make sure Lucas gets his, okay? No matter what, that's going to happen. All right. Let's say when Wilson was 3 years old, it was too hard for me, and I abandoned my family, and I left. Let's say Wilson comes home that day from school, and there's no dad there to hear his story. Mom's working 2 jobs because she's got to take care of the family, and so he just has to go to the bathroom, clean himself up, and take his lumps. The Bible says that God is going to be a father to him, that God is going to protect him, that God is going to look out for him. And then this is really important. How does God do that? Does Lucas, next time Lucas goes out to beat up another kid, God zaps him with a lightning bolt from heaven? Maybe. Turns him to dust? Maybe he does that every once in a while, but that's not normally how God acts. You know how God's going to do it? He's going to use people in this room to protect my son, Wilson. He's going to use people in this room. He's going to use Christians to look out for and stand up for the weak, the vulnerable, the helpless. God takes this really serious, you guys. Look what it says in Amos 5:11. This is a long verse, but I'm going to read it. There's several verses. It says, therefore, because you trample on the poor. He's talking to Israel here. Because you trample on the poor and you exact taxes of grain from him. For I know your transgressions are many and your sins are great. You who distress the righteous and accept bribes and turn aside the poor in the gate. He gives them this commandment. Hate evil, love good, and establish justice in the gate. Perhaps the Lord God of hosts may be gracious to the remnant of Joseph. But then he says this, because they're not. He says in verse 21, I reject your festivals, nor do I delight in your solemn assemblies. Even though you offer up to me burnt offerings and your grain offerings, I will not accept them. I will not even look at the peace offerings of your fatlings. Take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not even listen to the sound of your harps. But let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. God says, don't worship me and then go do injustice. Don't pray to me and go do injustice. It's an offense. It's a stench to me that you would not care. Several years ago, more than 25 years ago now, I think, our church was just a little tiny church here, and in El Cajon. And El Cajon is, it's not great now, but it used to be a lot worse than it is. And you know, I don't know, it still happens, but you drive around El Cajon, you see like 2 o'clock in the morning, you see like guys riding their BMX bike, with like the cut off glove fingers, and you just think like, huh, I bet you don't have a job, And just a lot of things that come along with poverty, a lot of things that come along with brokenness and broken families and all that kind of stuff. And there's just a lot of kids who just, these adults who are causing crimes and problems were kids that had grown up in bad spots and bad situations. And we just felt like as a church, God was calling us to do something. So Pastor Mark and some people started praying, and they just felt like we got to do something. And so they opened up right next to 7-Eleven over here across the bridge. They opened the first youth venture. It was a little tiny, like 600 square foot room. It was tiny. And God started to bless it. God started to move. We didn't have a lot of money as a church. We didn't know how to do it. They sold Christmas trees, and God started, and then God, this El Cajon, the one over across from Target, this businessman basically gave us that building. You're not even a Christian, I think. He just said, I feel like I'm supposed to do this. And gave us that building. It was a big deal. And since then, we've been able to open up several other youth ventures. There's one actually opening up right now on the other side of El Cajon through another church. And it's grown to this huge ministry. And there's lots of people that are here in this church and that their lives are changed because of that ministry. Because that ministry looked out and they said, there's a problem here. Somebody should do something. I guess that means we should do something. Youth Venture is where I met a lot of my good friends. My daughter, Brianna, over here. She first started coming to this church because of Youth Venture. My friend Thomas, I remember that Thomas, he runs the Lakeside High School group. Anybody here from Lakeside High School, small group? Oh, yeah, my brothers. So Thomas Fitzgerald, Thomas and Talia. I remember he started coming to church through Youth Venture, and when his friends brought him one Sunday morning, and they were sitting in Sunday school, and they were like throwing stuff at each other, and I was like, it's like one of those things like a youth leader, you're like, okay, I got to make an example of one of these guys, you know? And so I didn't know him, but Thomas threw something. I was like, all right, Thomas. I didn't know his name. Hey, kid, go pick up 30 pieces of trash. He was not, like this kid was not, he was giving me the meanest look I've ever seen in his life. I was like, hey, I'm a good youth pastor, right? Go pick up 30 pieces of trash, dude. And like, we had this little battle of the wills there for a minute, you know? But he was so angry. I remember he was so pissed. And like, I'm a good youth pastor, so finally he did it, you know? I've learned all kinds of little tricks over the years of how to make kids do what I want. And I remember going home that day and thinking, man, that kid, he's good looking, handsome, young. He's got a lot of things going for him, but he is so angry, so broken, like just really angry. You know, what I didn't know about Thomas is that he came from a pretty unstable background. Him and his brother and his mom and his dad had been off and on homeless for the past several years. And Thomas's dad got sick and he died. And that Thomas's dad had always been an atheist and always told Thomas that people at the church shouldn't be trusted, that Thomas's mom couldn't take care of him, and so he was living on the floor of a friend's house that was roach infested with 14 other people. And his parents were stealing his Social Security. His friend's parents were stealing his Social Security check. He had a lot of reasons to be mad. He had a lot of reasons to be angry. What he needed was somebody to love him. And so he went to Youth Venture in this place where it was just open. He could come, and it just a chaos of his life. He could come there, and there were people there that loved him, that fed him, that mentored him, shared the gospel with him, brought him back to church. He ended up living in Steve Boland's house, going to our high school, graduating, marrying a beautiful girl, and Thomas has a great future and a great life. They just started a business together. There's so many great things about his future, but it happened because people who cared, who loved Jesus, loved him and reached out to him to help him. They didn't just tell him about God's love, but they showed it to him. I could literally tell you dozens and dozens and dozens of stories about people just like Thomas, whose lives were transformed. How did that happen? It's because 23 years ago, Mark Hoffman saw a problem and he decided to do something about it. We got big problems here in our culture. We got abortion problems, we got race problems, we got poverty problems, we got education problems. And it requires Christians to do something about it. Let me hurry up quick, fill in the blanks, and I'll have it for any Q&A. Here's 7 excuses we make that won't work. I don't have the resources. That fill in the blank is resources. You know, you don't need more to do justice. You just need to be faithful with what you got. God can open up. God owns it all. He can give you any money he wants, any resource he wants. You just start small. Don't despise small beginnings. I got a little line here that says friendship doesn't cost any money. It doesn't cost you any money to befriend somebody, to love somebody, to reach out to somebody. Second thing is it's somebody else's job. This is a big one. Somebody else is going to do it. Somebody else is more qualified. Somebody else has a degree. Somebody else whatever. It's someone else's job. James 4:17, therefore, to one who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it is sin. If you see a problem, you do something about it. Stop waiting for somebody else to do something about it. Next excuse, I don't know what to do. I can't fix that. I can't fix that problem. That problem's too big. It's way bigger than me. You can do something. Proverbs 24:11 and 12 says, rescue those being led away to death. Hold back those staggering toward the slaughter. If you say, but we knew nothing about this, does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not God know? Does not he who guards your life know it? Will he not repay everyone according to what they have done? What that means is if you say, I didn't know, God's going to say, ignorance is not an excuse. You should have known. You should have found out. The fact that you were just so busy in your own life doing your own thing and you didn't know about anybody else suffering, you didn't know about the problems anybody else was going through, that's on you. You should have known. Number 4, justice can wait. There's a lot of what the civil rights movement was about is people just said, just wait longer, just wait longer. If you know what's right, do it. Start today. Start something. There's an old proverb that says, not in the Bible, like the book of Proverbs, there's an old proverb. It says, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago, because then you have the tree. When's the next best time to plant a tree? Today. Okay? You can't go back in time and plant a tree that you wish you had now to give you shade or whatever, but you can plant a tree now that 20 years from now you'll be really grateful that you planted. So that means there's some things you can do right now in your life to start moving. Maybe it's just learning about something. Maybe it's paying attention. Maybe it's growing in your ability. Number 5, people don't deserve it. Yeah, people don't deserve it. Thomas that day when he was so angry at me, he didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve to be loved and reached out to. And guess what? Here's all that you know, a big secret. Nobody deserves it. You've been shown a lot of favor in your life. The worst person's life in here, you've had a lot of grace going on in your life. You've had a lot of God's favor in your life. You didn't deserve that either. Doesn't matter if they don't deserve it. So if you're not doing it for them, you're doing it for Him. The final thing is it costs too much. And look, it is going to cost something. It's expensive to do justice. It's going to cost you personally. But this verse, you guys have Isaiah 58 there? No? I want you to read this. I want to read this verse to you because I want you to pay attention to it. I want you to think about what is the cost of doing justice, and then I want you to think about what's the cost of not doing justice. Is this not the fast which I choose, to loosen the bonds of the wickedness? That's justice. To undo the bands of the yoke? That's justice. And to let the oppressed go free and to break every yoke? That's talking about justice issues. Is it not to divide your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house? And when you see the naked, to cover them and to hide yourself from your own flesh? These are all justice issues. Then, when you do that, your light will break out like the dawn, and your recovery will speedily spring forth, and your righteousness will go before you. The glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry, and He will say, here I am. If you remove the yoke from your midst, the pointing of the finger and speaking wickedness, and if you give yourself to the hungry and satisfy the desire of the afflicted, then your light will rise in the darkness, and your gloom will become like the midday. You know, I know so many young people are struggling with depression, anxiety, fear, all these other things. And you know what the Bible says here? You want the dawn to break on your gloominess? Go do justice. Go give your life to serving and helping other people, and God will use it. There's a lot more we could say. The Bible has a lot to say about justice. There's also a lot of things we could say about what's not justice and how to know the difference. But I got a couple minutes here, John? Yeah, 10? Sure, good. All the time I want? Till 10 o'clock tonight? Okay, so anybody have a question about any of these things you run into, things you wondered about, things that are concerning to you in regards to anything having to do with social justice? The options are unlimited. Yeah, injustice. Here's why. When you talk about abortion a lot, one of the things that comes up is all the questions of like, well, what about rape? What about incest? What about the health of the mother, where the carrying the baby could cause life-threatening complications to mothers? Like, what do you do with all these other issues that come up? And the truth is this: is if we just take what I think is a biological fact, and I think is a biblical fact, that is a baby in its mother's womb, then no matter what the external circumstances are, you're not allowed to take that life. If I knew that Hannah was going to be mean to you, or let's say Hannah was going to, she'd drive really reckless and she lived down the street from you, and I was worried that she was going to run you over and hurt you. I can't go kill Hannah. because I'm worried that, like, preemptively, like, I'm worried about that, right? And so look, here's the other realities. Let me just throw this out there, is that the number of, since Roe v. Wade was passed in 1974, it was legalized in 1974, we've aborted over 60 million babies in this country. That is a brutally high number of women who have gone through abortions, right? And so we have a lot of women in our culture and society, in our church, that have that trauma in their past. And we need to preach God's love and forgiveness to them and let them know the hope that there is in Christ to have your sins cleansed and forgiven, and not one step back from holding that line that says, no, life is life and we got to protect it. Such a good question. Okay, so let me just break out. There's a couple things. You're talking about some people who are wrongly accused, right? So what do we do with injustice that's never going to be set right? It's never, like, okay, so one of the things I don't like to think about it, but one of the things I think about when I think about this specific issue is, what about things like the Holocaust? You had 6 million Jewish human beings, imago Dei, made in the image of God, exterminated, their lives cut short. And then Hitler, the primary, and like 10 million others. It wasn't just Jews, it was all these people. And then Hitler lived a really kind of opulent, great life with lots of great things. And then last minute, when they were surrounding him, he killed himself. Like, there's no justice. That never works out, right? Think about the transatlantic slave trade. Think about how many people who sold slaves and slave owners who lived wealthy, nice lives built on the slave labor owning of other imago Dei people, believers, right? Other brothers and sisters we have in the Lord. How does that ever get made right? Here's partly, this is a really important part of justice. We didn't really get into it. And this is something we have to understand and get to. You are never going to get ultimate justice in this life, okay? That doesn't exist. And if you're trying to get that and trying to work for that, and that's not even the goal of this life. The goal of this life is not to be treated fairly. In fact, if I was talking to you and you were like, well, I got this situation. I got this math teacher who is super unjust. They give me extra homework every week, and it's like they're a jerk. I would say, good. It's good for you to be mistreated sometimes. It's good for you to suffer. Jesus was mistreated. It's good for you to have the fellowship of sufferings that Jesus has. It's good for you to have these different things. So one thing I would say is that's okay, because it builds character. It's going to grow you more, be like Jesus. But here's one of the greatest things about being a Christian. If you're an atheist, you believe you die and that's it, there is never justice. What we believe is there is a God in the universe who sees and knows everything perfectly. There's not one thing that's ever been hidden from his eyes. There's not one misdeed that was ever done that he didn't know about. And when that God is going to, at the end of time, he's going to judge everything perfectly. Exactly perfectly. And every injustice that has ever been done is going to be unwound and it's going to be put right. Okay? Now that's my answer to that question. Is that God is the one who ultimately says, so if I got wrongly in prison, if I didn't kill Hannah, and Hannah said, I guess you're dead, but Hannah's parents found out, like, they claim me, and I got wrongly, and I went to prison, I spent the rest of my life there in solitary confinement, suffering. I know that when I get to meet Jesus, it's all going to be, like the Bible says, that that these present, what does it say? These present sufferings aren't worthy to be compared with the eternal weight of glory that awaits us, right? That in that next life, dude, it's going to seem like that was the easiest cakewalk, like it was a walk in a warm park, those many years I spent in prison or whatever. So one is my confidence in justice. Now here's the problem, is that justice means that God, who weighs everything perfectly, is going to weigh you perfectly, and every single one of us is going to be found wanting. Every single one of us is going to fall short. And those of us who are in Christ are going to have Christ's blood, and Jesus is going to welcome us in and say, good, well done, my good and faithful servant. So that's what, like, the justice that I'm looking forward to is that ultimate justice where God accepts me under the blood of Jesus, and that I could be his a Christian. Now, you said you alluded to another thing, though, that I thought you were starting to talk about. I don't think you were now. But is what do we do with, like, criminal justice reform? Some of those kinds of things that are going on where, like, Like you'll hear these reports where two people will be committed the same crime, and one person will get probation, and one person will get 10 years in prison. You want, what'd you say? Oh, you're in on that one too, okay. So what do we do with those kinds of things? Well, I want to say we need to figure out in our country what is the right amount of how do we do criminal justice reform? That's not an easy question. If you're a parent, you deal with this all the time. Your kid is careless and decides they're going to throw your grandma's ashes like off the roof, like they're in the backyard. They didn't have a football and they're going to play with their football, as like grandma's urn or something, right? And you told them before, like, hey, don't know it, Should you put them on restriction for 2 years? Should you put them on restriction for 6 months? Should you give them a stern talking to? Should you beat them? Should you make them work and pay back? I mean, you got all these questions like, dude, how do we decide what punishment we give for this thing, right? We have to have a just justice system, but we're never going to get perfect justice. So that's one thing we have to understand. The second thing is, I would say in regards to the criminal justice reform, and this goes into a lot of things that have to do with law enforcement. We got problems, and it's actually a really important area we got to get right. I was talking to a girl at Youth Venture the other day. Okay, I'll just use this. LeBron James, when I like LeBron James. When George Floyd was killed, he tweeted, they're out here hunting black people, okay? What he's saying is that police officers, rogue police officers, are he said, hunting black people, okay? If you watch the news, you would think, that is what's happening. I see it all the time. I see regularly white police officers treating black people very bad, and in many cases doing terrible, terrible, horrible things to them. Now we have to ask ourselves a question. Why do we think that? Do we think that because is that an accurate perception on reality? Or is that what we're seeing on the news and what sells ad time and what is like popular? When you look at the statistics, like cops, anytime a cop kills somebody, we write that down, okay? Like that's an important statistic. So cops aren't out there killing people and getting away and like throwing the body in a canyon or something, right? That might happen a couple times every once in a while, but like for the most part, if a cop kills somebody like that, we got that information, right? And they keep statistics. Cops every year kill more white people than they kill black people. If you watch the news, you don't know that. There's a bunch of statistics that go into like, how do we understand this? Like, what is the actual reality? For almost every situation, there's a guy the year before in Arizona who got killed the exact same way George Floyd did. It's on video. He's saying, I can't breathe, help me. And I don't know his name, and you don't know his name. I know George Floyd's name. I know Mike Brown's name. I could go through and I know Tamir Rice. I know all the names of all these guys, these black men who have been killed. Alton Sterling. I could go through a number of. We don't know that almost every single one of them. There's an exact same situation with a white person who was killed, but you don't know the names because it doesn't sell. And so part of what hurt my heart when my niece was like going all Black Lives Matter is I just wanted to say, look, there's a different agenda here that is not the gospel. It's not gospel reconciliation that I want you to be aware of and want you to know about. And so one of the things with prison reform, there are some problems with prison reform that we got to work on. But when you look at those statistics, it's not what it seems like all the time when we look at it. I'll say that. I would love to, if you have questions about prison reform, I'll talk to you about it after. Anybody else? Any other questions you guys got? Yeah, I got it. And I guess I should invite the band up. Should we just Q&A to the end? Yeah, whatever works. All right. Who cares about worship anyways? The death penalty comes up a lot because especially a lot of Catholics have taken a very strong stance against the death penalty. You'll get this a lot in the abortion conversation too, because they'll say, "Are you pro-life or are you just pro-life for babies, or just pro-life when they're in somebody else's womb?" So the question of the death penalty comes up: is it just to kill people who have been guilty of crimes? And I'd say yes. In fact, it is a right thing for capital crimes, for certain crimes, that the penalty would be death. And it would just be a really simple argument. That's what it is in the Bible. So the Bible gives us certain crimes that if you commit this crime, you should be put to death. It actually says stone this person, right? And so it seems like that God's plan during that time was to put people to death. In the New Testament, you have Ananias and Sapphira who lied about what they sold and says that the Holy Spirit killed them. So the idea that we're not, if you commit a crime, if you take somebody else's life and without, crazy extenuating circumstances, like you murdered that person, then you should forfeit your life. I strongly believe that, for sure. There's definitely some categories of crimes that death penalty is right and good and just. Anybody else? So this is actually a cool experience I had. I was at the high school last week, like I said, and I was talking about abortion. These girls came up after and they said, "Well, we have an abortion club here that meets every Wednesday at lunch, and we talk about this stuff." And the one girl said, "My friend actually, who's always been super pro-choice, and she was just really crass about abortion, but she's pregnant now, and she's really scared. But I've been talking to her and praying for her, and she's decided she's going to keep the baby. She's like a total 180, and she's going to talk to her parents or whatever." So I know that situation comes up, and one of the things that I think the girl back there was talking about her mom, and she said that she was really scared to tell her parents. I think that's so often a situation is they're going to kill me. They're going to kick me out. I'll be homeless. I don't know. This is going to mess up my whole life, or it's going to mess up my future. I don't know how to take care of a kid. I'm a kid myself. I like watching Gummy Bears, and I'm not even ready to take care of a kid. My kids are really watching a lot of Gummy Bears right now, so that's what came to my mind. But here's what I would do is I would be, okay, I'm sorry, Gummy Bears is a cartoon along with a food. All right, I would be praying for him. I would give him counsel, and I also let him know there's help. There is so much help out there. There's the East County Pregnancy Care Clinic. There's so much people there waiting to help. They have maternity clothes. They have prenatal care. They have baby clothes. They have parenting classes. They have adoption services. They have everything you could possibly need. There are people who are willing to help you do that. I will be willing to help you do that. I will go with you, talk to your parents. Talk to another leader first, and then have them go talk to your parents. Whatever it takes, I would just be praying and encouraging them in that situation. So in fact, what the gospel is all about, right? The Bible says that we have the spirit of adoption by which we call Abba Father. Right? That adoption is beautiful. Adoption is gospel work. And there's not, people die. People are orphaned for all kinds of reasons. And so we need to be a people of adoption and be willing to grab a hold of people and love people. And not just there's formal adoption, but then there's just informal adoption where it's just you're with me. You're celebrating holidays with me, and you come over to my house, and all those kinds of things I think are things that Christians really need to be about. Yeah. No, this is a really important question. So the Apostle Paul said a couple of things. One, he said, "I work out my salvation by fear and trembling." So it seems like the Apostle Paul, could you not do that? That's a little weird. It seems like the Apostle Paul struggled himself with wondering, where am I at with God? I want to understand, I want to press in, I want to understand my salvation. The Bible tells us there are people who think they're Christians who are going to go to hell because they're not really Christians. They haven't really trusted in Jesus. So it's an okay question to ask, a question to think about. But there also is a point where it's a matter of faith. You need to just trust that God, He's able to save you. No matter what your sins are, no matter what, if you put your trust in Him and hope in Him, and your faith, you're walking out faith, not perfectly, but you're walking out faith in pursuing Him, you can have confidence that God's going to forgive your sins. And so I would just say part of that confidence comes from pressing into the Lord. And usually people that are going to hell are not thinking I think I'm going to hell, right? So the fact that you're I'm not sure I'm saved is actually a little bit of a decent sign that there's the salvific work of God is being effective in your life. and is moving forward in your life. But I would just encourage you to keep pressing in, keep seeking him, and God's going to give you more and more confidence. I used to struggle with, am I a Christian? Do I really believe this? And like, I don't really struggle with that anymore. So it like over a process of time, I'm like, no, I do. My faith is in this. My hope is in this. So I just encourage you to keep pressing in and seeking the Lord. Anybody else? Yeah, maybe like one more. So you mean like I'm not a woman, so can't have an opinion on abortion, or I'm not black, so I can't have an opinion on that kind of stuff? I would just say that God, what makes us the same is a lot more than what makes us different. Okay, so we're all I've used the word imago Dei a couple times here. That means that we're image bearers and made in the image of God, and God has called us to speak on these issues. And it'd be sinful. I'm not accountable to you or the culture or whatever on what is okay for me to say, what's not okay for me to say. I'm accountable to God. I'm going to stand before God and give an account for every word that did and did not come out of my mouth. And if there are times that I was silent when I should have spoken up, God's going to hold me accountable for that. There are times when I was popped off about something I didn't know about, and I should have been quiet. God's going to hold me accountable for that. And so I would just say there's a bunch of nonsense out there that's trying to quiet down. I mean, as like a Christian white male, there's a bunch of conversations that people want to say like get out of here. Like we don't care what you have to say. You're like just trying to advance this kind of white supremacy kind of thing. Like that's in a certain world out there, that's what's happening. And if I was going to let that make me be quiet, then I don't deserve to speak anyways. So I care about these issues. I'm a man. God has called me to speak on certain things. I'm going to speak on them. And God called us as Christians to speak on justice. We got to speak on justice. It doesn't matter if people don't want to hear it or not. We got to be willing to be courageous and stand up and be faithful and say, look, this is the truth, and I'm not going to apologize for it. So, sorry. All right, let me pray for you guys. And I'll stick around for a little bit if anybody has anything maybe personally you didn't want to say out loud. But, Lord, God, I thank you, Lord, for your word. I thank you, Lord, that it's true, God, and God, that it's living and active. Father, I thank you, God, you're speaking to us still today, Lord, and I pray, God, for all these young people, Lord, that God, as they are navigating their lives and their worlds, and they're going to go out from here and choose careers and choose families and friends and directions, Lord, I pray, God, they would keep their eyes firmly fixed on you, the author and the finisher of their faith, God, and they would accomplish all that you've called them to, God. Pray, God, a blessing over them right now, Jesus. That you would pour out your spirit, you would pour out your grace, you'd pour out your mercy, that they would be zealous for you, hungry for the truth, God, and they would pursue you, Lord, to wherever, God, that you've called them to go. I pray, God, not one person here would shrink back from what you've called them to. God, we love you and bless you in Jesus' name. All people said? Amen. God bless you guys.